Having said about recognition criteria, let us now talk about types of borrowings. Okay. What do types of borrowings mean? Types of borrowings, there are broadly two types of borrowings. One is called as a specific borrowing. Second is called as a general borrowing. What does specific borrowing mean? Specific borrowing means a borrowing which is taken especially for the qualifying asset. That means I have taken a loan only for the sake of that particular qualifying asset. Okay. For the sake of qualifying asset. Okay. Second, what does a general borrowing mean? General borrowing means a borrowing which is generally taken by the company. A borrowing which is generally taken by the company. Okay. That means, say you may have OD accounts, you may have CC accounts, you may have corporate business loans. Okay. That means irrespective of the project, there is some funding which is done to the company. Okay. Corporate business loans. Okay. In such cases, they are called as general loans. General loans. So how to differentiate borrowings? Number one, a specific borrowing. That means a loan which is taken, or it's a borrowing which is made specifically for utilization in the qualifying asset. Okay, utilization of funds in the qualifying asset, then you call it as a specific borrowing. Coming to general borrowing, it could be a normal loan or any facility taken from the banker or financial institution. However, it is taken in the company's name or the entity's name, not specifically for the sake of qualifying asset. That means the money taken here as loan may be used for a qualifying asset, may be used for other assets, or may be used for general business purpose also. Okay. In such cases, you call it as a general borrowing. Okay. Now, why do we need to understand about these types of borrowings? Because based on this, we will decide about how borrowing cost has to be added to your qualifying asset. Okay. Now, if you take a specific borrowing, any borrowing cost on specific borrowings, any specific borrowing cost on this specific borrowings is added to the qualifying asset. That is, you can fully add that value to the qualifying asset. Okay. However, when it comes to a general borrowing, you cannot completely take the entire value of borrowing cost to the qualifying asset. Why? For example, if you have taken a corporate general loan of 10 lakhs, okay, 10 lakhs is the loan taken, of which 2 lakhs is spent towards qualifying asset and 8 lakhs is spent towards all other categories. In such case, the amount of borrowing cost which can be capitalized is only on 2 lakhs which you are supposed to take. Okay. So what we are supposed to do here is only borrowing cost proportionate to the qualifying asset is to be added. That is, to the qualifying asset, only proportionate amount of borrowing cost is added to the qualifying asset. That's all. Okay. So this is with respect to the capitalization of borrowing cost. That is addition of borrowing cost to your asset. Okay. Now, let us come to next circumstance. There are three important aspects to be understood. I told you that you are supposed to see whether a borrowing cost is incurred. You're supposed to see whether there is a qualifying asset. Okay. If there is a borrowing cost specifically used for this qualifying asset, such borrowing cost is added. Okay. Now, that addition of borrowing cost to qualifying asset is what we mentioned it as capitalization. Capitalization of borrowing cost. That means you are not expensing it off, you are instead adding it to the value of the asset. Okay. Now the question next what comes is, should I consider this, when should I consider this borrowing cost? That means when should I start capitalizing? Is there any situation in which I'll have to hold capitalization? And is there any something called as at when I'll have to terminate capitalization? Okay. Inside the standard, it is given through words called as commencement of capitalization. Commencement of capitalization, number one. Number two, suspension of capitalization. Okay. Number three, termination of capitalization or termination or cessation. Okay. Termination or cessation of capitalization. So these are the three things which we are supposed to see in borrowing cost. Now, when do we commence capitalization? When do we commence capitalization? Commencement starts on satisfaction of the following criteria. Okay. So there are set of criteria mentioned. If those are satisfied, only then commencement would start. Okay. Number one is expenditure on qualifying asset is being incurred. That means unless until you really incur a borrowing cost, you cannot think about capitalization. Okay. Expenditure, okay, is incurred. Number two, there should be borrowing cost which is incurred. Now, please mind, the first one is expenditure. What does that mean? I should keep building the asset. I should start building the asset. That means I'm spending some money on the particular asset and the asset is slowly evolving out. Okay. Second, there is a borrowing cost which is incurred. That means on the asset, there should be some borrowing cost which I'm incurring. Please mind, incur does not mean actual payment. Accrual system, borrowing cost should be incurred is what it states. Okay. And third, there should be active progress. There should be active progress in the development of activities in the particular project. Okay. Such that you have a clear indication that the asset is improving day by day. Okay. So if these three conditions get satisfied, you can start commencing capitalization of borrowing costs. Now, I'll give you with an example. For example, I have taken 1 acre of land. In this, I would like to construct 100 apartments. 1 acre of land, 100 apartments. Now, for these 100 apartments, what I actually did is to build 100 apartments or whatever number of apartments. If we have to build 100 apartments, I need to establish the ground first. That is, I'll have to lay down the elephant pillars. Okay. To lay down the elephant pillars, I'll have to plow down the land, say to the extent of 40 feet. To the extent of 40 feet, I'll have to go down and only then start building the project. In such case, out of this entire land, I have got, so I started plowing it with proclaimers. Okay. So I have been plowing the entire land and I have finished off plowing. Now, to plow down the land, that is to excavate the soils from the land. Okay. I have incurred some expenditure. Yes or no? That means expenditure is incurred. To incur this expenditure, I have already taken a loan from the bank. Okay. So automatically there will be borrowing cost which is paid by me. Okay. Lastly, there is active progress. What does active progress means? There should be some activity which says out of 100% of my entire building construction activity, 5% is done, 2% is done. Some percentage of improvement is what you are supposed to show. Okay. Now, by plowing down the land, say that is excavating the soils from the land, it is considered to be 5% of activity. 5% of activity. What happened here? 5% of project work got completed. Okay. So that means there is satisfaction of all the three criteria, in which case I can start commencing the borrowing cost capitalization. Okay. Next. When do I suspend borrowing cost capitalization? Now, there are two words given here. One is called as suspension. Second is called as cessation. In both the places, we are going to stop capitalization of borrowing costs. However, in suspension, it is temporary. In suspension, it is temporary. However, in cessation, it is permanent. That is end of capitalization. Permanent. Okay. Now, when do we temporarily suspend a capitalization? Suspension is done if there are some avoidable reasons. Okay. If there are some avoidable reasons, but I have not taken up to avoid those reasons. I'll give you examples. Say, for example, my workers have announced a strike on me, stating that in the market per day, the labor charge is 1,000 rupees. Okay. However, the same workers in my premises, I am paying them only 800. They got frustrated. Whose fault is it? My fault only. Or is it something which I can rectify and get the work going? Yes, because if I tell that I'll pay them 1,000 rupees per day from today onwards, they'll start working. Yes or no? So it is something which is avoidable by me. That is, this temporary workers lockdown or workers strike is something which I can close it off, close the issue. But I have not taken steps. That means I could have announced 1,000 rupees of labor charges per day, but I did not do. I said I will pay only 800. Then workers did not come to work. What happened? My activity in the activity progress did not happen at all. Yes or no? If activity progress does not cannot be shown, you cannot capitalize the borrowing cost. Yes or no? In such case, you will have to suspend the borrowing cost for reasons which are avoidable, and you have not ensured they can be avoided. In such case, you are supposed to suspend the borrowing cost. Okay. So suspension comes then. What are reasons which cannot be avoided? Take best example right now, Corona. Okay. Due to Corona, employees, none of the construction sites are supposed to be operate now. Excuse me. Sorry. None of the construction sites are supposed to operate now. So what happens? I am forced to keep all the activities at still. And go ahead with silent expectation. That's all. I cannot do any of the activities at the site. What happens here? This is not something which is in my hands to avoid. Hence, I am allowed to capitalize the borrowing cost during this period. I'm allowed to capitalize the borrowing cost at this during this period. So this is what the suspension is about. Okay. Lastly, termination or cessation. So when do you terminate or close capitalization of borrowing cost? Standard says all activities necessary for the asset to be made ready for use, have to be completed. Okay. Have to be completed substantially. Now, what does substantially mean? For example, I have finished off construction of that 1 acre of project. Everything is done. Everything is done. Small fittings here and there, are to be done, or else small, plastering work is left over in the corners wherever we have drilled holes to allow electrification and all. Okay. Now, if I close that, it's over. Beyond that, there is no work at all. Or else the walls, everything, walls, furniture, doors, everything is fixed. Only thing left is painting of doors. Walls are also painted. Everything is painted. Only thing which is left is painting of doors. That means even if you don't paint the doors, you can still use the asset. Yes or no? You can still use the house. You can still use it as a business premises. Okay. They can be done even afterwards. In such case, you can consider that all activities for the asset to be made ready to use are done. Okay. Substantially, are done substantially. And any such minor works, if at all there are, they can be done even at a later stage. That's all. Okay. If such stage of completion comes, automatically you can close capitalization of borrowing cost. Okay. So this is what standard tells you as to when you are supposed to cease capitalizing the borrowing cost. Okay. So broadly, this is about the standard. Broadly, this is about the standard. Now coming to last segment, disclosures. Standard says disclosures with respect to accounting policy followed to account for the borrowing cost. Okay. Next, types of borrowings. That is any specific borrowing, general borrowing and all. And then you would have details about amount of borrowing cost capitalized. Amount of borrowing cost capitalized. Okay. So these are few things which you are supposed to disclose in your books of accounts. Okay. So this is about it. Now problems wise, how we solve is something I am yet to discuss. I'm yet to discuss. Next session, when we do the problems, let us talk about it, because it makes more sense as we solve the problem if I tell you that. Okay. Rather than telling you here. Okay. So that part, let's keep it aside. Problem solving, anyways, we are doing. Okay. We will do it when we go there. Right. Next. Now, if we are done with this, let's move to the last standard to be discussed. Last standard to be discussed, AS 26. Okay. There is a question raised here. How borrowing cost is treated in case of a foreign currency? I'll do that when we do a problem. Okay. Anyways, we have a question for it. Okay. We'll do that. Yeah. Okay. Now let's move to the last leg. That is last standard, which is supposed to be discussed in theory. AS 26. AS 26. It talks about intangible assets. Intangible assets and their treatment. Now, I'll give you a crux of this. Very simple standard. Very simple standard. Standard talks about when an intangible asset is to be recognized. Second, how it is to be amortized. How it is to be amortized. Any impairment impairment testing in case of a intangible asset, and then disclosures. That's all. Okay. Now, first, let us understand what a borrowing cost is. What a borrowing cost is. Sorry, what a intangible asset. I'm still sleeping. Okay. I'm still sleeping. I'm talking about borrowing cost even after coming into intangibles. Huh? Yeah. Punishment standing instead of sitting. Let's first understand about the intangible assets, how it is supposed to be, identified. You need not stand and listen, you sit and listen. Yeah. Now, what does a intangible asset mean? What does a intangible asset mean? An intangible asset means an asset which cannot be touched or felt in physical sense, or felt in physical sense. That means you cannot see, you cannot touch, you cannot feel. Only then you are considering it as a intangible asset. Now, what all types of intangible assets could be there? Intangible assets broadly are classified into two. Number one, a goodwill, others. Okay. Now, when I say goodwill, it is an intangible asset. Please recollect AS 14 discussion. AS 14 says goodwill is basically something which is always a purchased goodwill in the books of accounts. Okay. Never in your books of accounts you would find self-generated goodwill. Okay. So that means if at all a goodwill appears in the balance sheet, it is basically purchased goodwill only. It is only purchased goodwill. Okay. When it comes to others, others could be any other intangible asset. Others indicate any other intangible asset. Okay. Now, what do I mean by any other intangible asset? Any other intangible asset could be, it could be a brand, it could be a patent, it could be some other asset, it could be some other intangible asset, any other intangible asset. Okay. Now, please note this point very carefully. The standard called AS 26, does not apply to goodwill at all. Under AS 26, it does not talk about goodwill accounting at all, because the goodwill, whatever you get in the balance sheet, is basically out of purchased goodwill. That means AS 14 only talks about it. And AS 14 says any purchased goodwill is supposed to be written off over a 5 years period. Yes or no? It's supposed to be written off over 5 years period. That means AS 26 actually has no references with respect to goodwill accounting at all. Clear? Now let us get into others. When it comes to others, other intangible assets are something which we are supposed to account using AS 26. Okay. That means AS 26 is actually applicable only for other intangibles. Okay. Now, when I say other intangibles, how would I account for it? Okay. Standard says other intangibles can be either self-generated or bought out. That means purchased. Okay. If it is self-generated, you need to see two phases. If it is self-generated, you are supposed to see two phases. The first phase is called research phase. The first phase is called as research phase. Second phase is called as development phase. The second phase is called as development phase. Whatever expense you incur during research phase, any expenditure incurred during research phase is completely charged to P&L only. Okay, is completely charged to P&L. However, whatever you incur during development stage is what we capitalize. That is, an intangible asset is recognized. An intangible asset is recognized only for the amount incurred during the development phase. That's all. Take an example. I started a research on a particular project in 2016. Okay. For 2 years, that is till 2018, I have been researching. By end of 2018, I got to know my intangible asset is ready for development. Okay. So from 2018 to 2020, I kept on developing. Say during this 3 years, first 3 years period, 2016 to 2018, I incurred 5 crores of cost on research phase. Can I capitalize it? I cannot capitalize it. Okay. But when it comes to the development phase, I spent say 3 crores. This 3 crores can be capitalized. This 3 crores can be kept on capitalizing over the 3 years. Till when can I capitalize is the question. Till the time the intangible asset is available for use. That means in 2020, say on 1st of May 2020, it was made available for use. Okay. So whatever I recognize now is basically nothing but a intangible asset only. Okay. I'll give you even more practical case here which is the right now the hot cake. Take vaccine for corona. Okay. Vaccine for corona. Do you right now have a vaccine for corona? No. People are dying to get it done. Okay. What are the pharmaceutical research companies doing right now? They are only continuously researching. They're trial running multiple types of drugs. Yes or no? Now, say, when did this trial runs start? In December 2019, China started with trial runs for corona. It has been trying to test out, not fully successful. And even today, say by July 20, the research phase continued. And by July 2020, you are successful in identifying the formula. Okay. That formula is basically an intangible asset, yes or no? The company, whoever it be, who has found out that formula, will register a patent amongst themselves. Okay. Now, the moment patent is registered, all that expense which is incurred during this phase, that is December 19 to July 20, say it has spent 5 crores. That entire 5 crores will be charged to P&L. So this 5 crores is charged to P&L. Okay. Now development phase, please see. So to develop the formula correctly and give it over to various individuals for sale. Say for example, this formula from July 22 or from 1st of August 2020 till 31st December 2020, you kept on developing. By 31st December 2020, it is ready for delivery. The intangible asset is ready for delivery. That means your product is good for execution. Your product is good for execution. In such case, say you have spent another 10 crores. Okay. This 10 crores can be capitalized as intangible asset in your balance sheet. Clear? So this is what's supposed to be done. in case the asset is self-generated. Now, what if it is bought out? Whatever cost you have incurred, in purchasing the asset, in purchasing the intangible asset, that entire cost can be considered as a intangible asset only. Okay, this is what we call as either this capitalization or purchase cost. Either of these cases is what we call as initial recognition. Initial recognition. Okay. Now, after we initially recognize an intangible asset, every year there is something called as amortization cost. What does amortization cost mean? It's basically nothing but kind of depreciation on intangible asset. Okay. Now, any amortization cost is dependent on life of the intangible asset. Okay. Now, intangible assets are classified into two categories by AS 26. Intangible assets which have a definite life, second which do not have a definite life, that is indefinite life. Which do not have a definite life, that is indefinite life. Okay. Now, you're supposed to see if it is a definite, useful life is definite, that is, one second guys. Now, let's sorry for the inconvenience guys, I'll continue. So intangible assets with respect to amortization of the amortization of intangible asset. Intangible assets can be broadly classified into two. Intangible assets with definite life, second with indefinite life. Now, please mind, when I say indefinite, it does not mean infinite. Indefinite means for today, I'm not able to identify for how many years I'll be able to use it. Okay. In such case, we call it as indefinite. Now, what standard says is with respect to assets, intangible assets which have a definite life, they could be less than 10 years or greater than 10 years. And there could be assets which have indefinite life. That means you are not able to identify number of years. Okay. What standard says is if the number of years for which it is intended to use is less than 10, amortize on SLM over the actual number of years. Amortize on SLM, that is straight line method, over the actual number of years. However, when it comes to intangible assets which have a definite life greater than 10 years, or if the intangible assets are having an indefinite life, in either of these cases, there is a reputable presumption taken that it is going to be written off, that is amortize in 10 years. Amortize in 10 years. It could be 20 years, it could be 30 years, or you might not know for how many years you're going to use it, in which case you're supposed to write it off over 10 years. What are you going to write off? If it is a self-generated asset, the development cost, whatever you have capitalized. If it is going to be a purchased asset, the cost at which you have purchased. Either of these will be amortized over the life of the intangible asset. Life is basically, if it is less than 10 years, take that life and amortize over that period. If it is greater than 10 years, or you do not know how many years you are going to use it, in either of those cases, it is going to be amortized in 10 years. It's going to be amortized in 10 years. So this is what's supposed to be done. Here is a question asking, can you give an example of intangible asset with indefinite life? Okay, indefinite life question example you want. Say, for example, you have created a take our accounting based example only, would be easy for you. I'm sure most of you guys will be struggling with GSTR 2 reconciliations while doing GST audits. If you guys are already into articleship, you would know. Otherwise not. GSTR 2 reconciliations. Okay. Say there is a software which I have developed, which gives you an insight of every GSTR2 reconciliation on its own. Okay, that means GSTR2 reconciliation is going to be a 5-minute job for me for every month. So what happens here? My effort in identifying the reconciliation or doing the reconciliation part is completely lost. In 5 minutes, I'm going to finish off for 1 month. Okay. So when this is the case, so I came up with a software which does the GSTR2 reconciliation on its own. Okay. Now this reconciliation, I do not know how many years I'll have to do. And I do not know about the competition which I have here. Maybe I might be the first person to develop this software, but others also can develop on their own, no? Okay. Think about video editing softwares. There are 100 varieties of video editing softwares. Whoever likes what, they'll buy that. Okay. So same way, if I develop a GSTR2 reconciliation software, somebody else also can develop. For either of us, we do not know for how many years government asks us to do this GSTR2 reconciliation. As long as there is business, our software will be bought. If there is no business, will there be value in my software? No. Yes or no? So same, in such cases, you may consider that your life is indefinite. Your life is indefinite. You do not know for how many years your software could be used. Okay. It could be 5 years, it could be 8 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, but you don't know. It's completely dependent on market. Okay. In such case, you call it as indefinite life. Okay. So this is with respect to amortization. Okay. Now lastly, impairment testing. Okay. Impairment testing, however, this is there as part of CA final syllabus for you, but with respect to intangibles, let me just quickly explain what it is. Okay. Now impairment means loss in the book value of asset. If there is a loss in the book value of asset, then you call the asset to be impaired. Okay. Now any such impairment loss, how does that happen? I'll tell you. Impairment loss with respect to intangibles is done like this. There is something called as book value for the intangible asset. It could be, say, book value of my intangible is 10 lakhs. Okay. But the market value of the asset is 6 lakhs. That means what? My books are not actually showing a true and fair view of the asset. Yes or no? So what standard suggests you to do is, if the book value of the asset is greater than the market value or value in use, in such case, the difference between these two is supposed to be considered as impairment loss, and this should be charged to P&L. In the year in which you recognize that loss. Okay. And for the remaining life of the asset, intangible asset, during the remaining life, you are supposed to charge only the 6 lakhs revised value of the asset is there, no? 6 lakhs revised value. This 6 lakhs is supposed to be, amortized over the remaining life. Clear? This is what's supposed to be done whenever you have a intangible asset which has got an impairment loss. Clear? So this is supposed to be done whenever an impairment happens. So with this, we are done with this standard also. We are done with this standard also. Let's move to last leg, that is disclosures. Disclosures, you are supposed to give opening balance, current year additions, and any deletions, that is any impairment loss if at all, or amortization if any, and closing balance. This is the format in which you are supposed to give for your intangible asset. Each intangible asset you're supposed to give these details. There's something similar to your fixed assets only. You have a 16 table, 16 items chart for depreciation calculation. Someone who is into practice, that is in articleship, you would have seen by now fixed assets schedule, however we prepare. In the same stance, we are supposed to prepare even for intangible assets also. Okay. So this is with respect to AS26 case. Okay. So next session, we will finish off the questions in the standards. Okay. All these standards, let us do questions now. Okay.